Sometimes the first step toward clearer skin is simply learning how to pay attention to what the skin is trying to say. Most people rush straight into scrubs, spot treatments, or whatever trending product promises overnight results, but the skin is actually much more honest and communicative than we give it credit for. When acne starts showing up along the cheeks or forehead, when blackheads settle deep into the nose or chin, when the skin feels rough even after cleansing, these aren't random flare-ups, they're signals. And when we take a moment to pause and understand them, everything about our approach to deep cleansing begins to change. You'll notice that the skin rarely misbehaves without a reason. Whether it's excess oil that's been sitting longer than it should, makeup residue from last night, sunscreen you didn't fully remove, or even the stress that pushes your oil glands into overdrive, the skin responds directly to what's happening inside and around you. And the fascinating thing is, it gives clues long before a breakout fully forms. A small bump you can feel but not see, a subtle roughness when you run your fingers across the nose, a sheen that shows up midday even when you washed your face that morning. These tiny signs tell you that the pores are getting clogged and need a little more care than usual. That's why real deep cleansing isn't about being aggressive, it's about being attentive. Think about the difference between scrubbing your skin because you're frustrated and cleansing your skin because you're listening. One is reactive, the other is responsive. When you understand what the skin is truly asking for, you stop treating acne and blackheads as enemies and start treating them as part of a conversation. And conversations always go better when you're calm, present, and gentle. That's exactly why ASMR-inspired cleansing resonates with so many people. The slow pace, the soft movements, the intentionality of every step. It's a reminder that your skin thrives when you approach it with patience instead of pressure. Everyone has had that moment of looking in the mirror and thinking, why is this happening again? But when you know the root cause, those moments feel less overwhelming. A cluster of blackheads across the nose usually means there's trapped oxidized oil. Those painful underground bumps often show that inflammation has been building for days. Even dryness can lead to breakouts because the skin compensates by pushing out more oil. All of this becomes easier to manage when you see the pattern instead of the problem. Your skin isn't being stubborn, it's reacting to something specific. Deep cleansing works best when it's tailored to that reaction. What people underestimate is how quickly the skin responds when you give it what it needs. A little extra warmth during cleansing helps soften hardened oil. A few seconds spent massaging the cleanser allows ingredients to work deeper. Letting a steamy towel rest on the face instead of immediately wiping it off helps loosen congestion. These small differences are what transform a basic routine into a meaningful remedy. You start to feel the pores release instead of resist, and your skin starts to calm itself because you're not rushing or forcing anything. And once you develop that habit of tuning in, really tuning in, you begin to notice that the skin guides you toward consistency. It will show you which products feel too harsh. It will show you when it likes something. It will show you how quickly it rebounds when treated with care. People often think the key is buying better products, but the truth is the key is building a better relationship with your skin. When that relationship is built on observation instead of frustration, on gentle cleansing instead of over cleansing, on rhythm instead of force, your skin becomes easier to manage, even during flare-ups. This understanding forms the foundation of everything that comes next. Why deep cleansing needs to be gentle, why ASMR methods work, why extractions must be safe, and why a routine only succeeds when it's consistent. You can't move forward without this first step, noticing, listening, and respecting what the skin is telling you. Because once you learn to hear those signals, you finally gain the power to change the outcome. Clarity begins the moment you start paying attention. When we talk about deep cleansing, most people immediately picture something intense. Foaming cleansers that strip the skin, gritty scrubs that feel like sandpaper, or tools that dig into pores until the skin turns bright red. And it's understandable because when you're dealing with stubborn acne or deeply packed blackheads, there's this instinct to fight hard. But here's the thing, harsh cleansing rarely brings you closer to clear skin. In fact, it usually pushes you further away. Real deep cleansing isn't about force, it's about strategy. It's about understanding that your skin wants to cooperate with you when you give it the conditions it needs to stay balanced. The skin barrier plays a huge role in this. When you overscrub or overwash, you're not just removing dirt, you're stripping away the natural oils and protective layers your skin relies on to stay calm and stable. And once that barrier gets disrupted, everything starts to go downhill. The skin becomes more reactive, more inflamed, and ironically, more prone to clogging. It compensates by pushing out more oil, which leads to more congestion, which leads to more breakouts. It's a cycle people fall into without even realizing it because they assume that if the skin feels squeaky clean, they're doing something right. But squeaky usually means stripped, and stripped skin is stressed skin. Gentle deep cleansing works differently. It doesn't force the skin to behave, it guides it. When you're using warm water instead of hot, a soft cleanser instead of a harsh one, and light pressure instead of scrubbing until it hurts, you're not being less effective. You're actually giving your pores the ideal environment to release buildup naturally. Think of it like this. Pores respond to warmth, softness, and patience. Oil plugs loosen when the surface is hydrated and softened, not when it's scratched out or dried out. Blackheads slide out more easily when the skin around them is calm, not inflamed. Acne heals faster when it's not irritated every time you wash your face. You might be surprised how much of a difference it makes to slow down for even 10 extra seconds while cleansing. When you massage your cleanser into the skin, instead of just moving it around and rinsing it off, you improve blood flow, soften debris inside the pores, and help active ingredients do more of the work. When you take your time, the skin responds with a sense of relief. You're not fighting your pores, you're inviting them to open up, to let go, to reset. That's why people who switch from harsh techniques to gentle ones often notice their skin becoming less oily, less reactive, and less congested within a few weeks. The skin stops trying to protect itself and starts cooperating. There's also a sensory element that ties deeply into the ASMR approach. Slow, controlled, rhythmic cleansing movements don't just feel calming, they encourage the skin to calm down with you. Soft textures, warm steam, and gentle pressure tell your nervous system to relax, and when the mind relaxes, inflammation tends to follow. Most people underestimate how much stress, tension, and rushed routines contribute to breakouts. Skin is incredibly responsive to your behavior. When you're gentle, the skin softens. When you rush, the skin resists. And when you push too hard, the skin pushes back harder. You don't need 5 cleansers or complicated methods to achieve a deep clean. You need intention, a balanced cleanser, warm water, a massage that lasts long enough to make the cleanser do its job, and a routine that respects the skin's natural rhythms. Once you stop fighting the skin and start supporting it, the pores stay cleaner for longer, blackheads form less frequently, and acne becomes easier to control. And this sets the stage for everything that follows: safer extractions, more effective treatments, and a routine that doesn't just clear the skin but maintains it. The real power of deep cleansing comes from understanding that the skin works best when you work with it, not against it. Gentle methods don't mean weak results, they mean smarter results. And when you commit to cleansing with care instead of force, the skin shows its gratitude in clarity. When you really break it down, the skin is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you, regulate you, and balance you. And pores are a big part of that. People talk about pores as if they're enemies, too big, too visible, too clogged. But pores are simply tiny openings that allow oil to travel from deep inside the skin to the surface. That oil, or sebum, isn't the villain. It actually keeps your skin soft, flexible, and protected. The trouble starts when that sebum hangs around longer than it should, or mixes with things it wasn't meant to mix with. And that's where blackheads and acne come into the picture. Sebum becomes a problem when it gets trapped. It can get stuck under layers of dead skin that haven't shed properly, or under makeup that wasn't fully removed, or even under sweat and pollution from the day. When it has nowhere to go, it sits in the pore, thickens, and begins to collect tiny particles from the surface. Once the top of that mixture is exposed to air, it oxidizes and turns dark. That's all a blackhead really is. Oxidized oil, not dirt, not bad hygiene, just oil that stayed in place too long. Understanding that changes how you treat it. Instead of scrubbing harder, you start thinking about softening, loosening, and melting away that buildup in a way that respects the skin's natural processes. Acne follows a slightly different path, but the story begins the same way. When sebum gets trapped and mixes with dead skin, the pore becomes a perfect environment for bacteria to multiply. And when the body senses that bacterial activity, it sends inflammation to the area to fight it. That inflammation is what makes a pimple swollen, red, and tender. It's not your skin attacking you, it's your skin trying to fix the problem. The deeper the clog, the deeper the acne. The smaller the opening, the more pressure builds under the surface. And once you understand the biology behind it, you start to see why gentle deep cleansing works so well. It prevents the clog before the inflammation has a chance to begin. Some people naturally produce more sebum. Others shed dead skin more slowly. Some have tiny, tighter pore openings that clog easier. These aren't flaws, they're just variations in skin behavior. But these variations explain why certain people are more prone to blackheads, while others battle whiteheads and others struggle with those painful bumps that never quite reach the surface. When you know the reason behind your pattern, you can treat the issue with precision instead of guessing. And that's where a consistent, thoughtful, deep cleansing routine becomes powerful. There's something comforting about knowing the skin operates on a simple logic. When pores are softened with warmth, the oil inside them loosens. When the surface is exfoliated gently over time, dead skin doesn't trap oil as easily. When you cleanse thoroughly instead of aggressively, you help the pores stay open and unblocked without causing them to overreact. This is why people who switch to balanced routines often notice fewer blackheads and less congestion even before adding any strong treatments. They're working with the skin's natural flow instead of disrupting it. And this is also where the sensory side of ASMR-inspired cleansing blends beautifully with biology. Warmth helps emulsify oil. Slow, rhythmic motions help lift debris without forcing it. Light pressure stimulates circulation, which brings oxygen and nutrients to the surface while helping the skin move waste material out. When you combine a soothing technique with scientific understanding, you get results that feel good and look good. You stop thinking of cleansing as a chore and start seeing it as a ritual that supports the skin's natural intelligence. People often underestimate how much the skin is trying to cooperate. It's not stubborn, it's not difficult, it's simply responding to what you give it. When you provide gentleness, warmth, balance, and consistency, the pores function better. When you understand the difference between oil that protects and oil that clogs, it becomes easier to target the real issue. And when you finally see how blackheads and acne form, you become much more patient with your routine because you understand the purpose behind every step. Clogged pores may look small on the surface, but the moment you understand them, you unlock a clearer path to clearer skin. There's something almost transformative that happens when you slow down during your skincare routine. Most people approach cleansing like a task to get through, quick motions, splashing water, rubbing until the skin feels bare. But when you bring in gentle ASMR-inspired techniques, the entire experience shifts. You're no longer rushing to strip things off your face, you're allowing your skin to open up, respond, and let go. And that subtle shift creates results that harsh methods simply can't compete with. It's not just about how you cleanse, but how you make the skin feel as you do it. The magic begins with slowing the pace. When the hands move softly and deliberately, the skin naturally relaxes. You can actually feel the difference almost immediately. The warmth of your fingers, the glide of the cleanser, the slight pressure that tells your pores it's safe to release what they're holding on to. There's no irritation, no tugging, no sense of urgency, and that relaxed environment is exactly what allows deep cleansing to work more effectively. Congestion loosens better in calm skin. Oil softens more easily. Tension melts away from the muscles beneath the surface. Everything responds to gentleness. This is where warmth becomes one of your most powerful tools. Something as simple as letting warm water run over your hands before touching your face creates a soothing introduction your pores can't resist. Warmth encourages the hardened oil inside pores to become more pliable. It helps the cleanser spread smoothly. It tells the nervous system to release tension, and that matters because stress and tightness often make the skin hold on to buildup more stubbornly. A warm towel resting on the face for a few seconds can be more effective than any aggressive scrubbing because it prepares the skin instead of shocking it. Then comes the rhythm. There's a reason ASMR content is so calming, the repetition, the softness, the predictable motions. And when those same principles are applied to cleansing, it becomes both a skin treatment and a sensory break. Think of using gentle circular motions that move at the pace of a deep breath. Think of how the fingertips glide just enough to lift debris, but not enough to pull at the skin. Think of the quiet sound of cleanser emulsifying, the subtle tap of your hands as you rinse, the light pat as you remove excess water. All these little details add up to a routine that feels like a ritual instead of a chore. And what people often don't realize is that these soothing motions actually create better results. When you treat the skin with calm consistency, you minimize micro-irritation. Irritation is one of the biggest triggers for acne flare-ups and increased oil production. Gentle touch signals to the skin that it doesn't need to defend itself. That means less redness, fewer reactive breakouts, and better overall healing. Even blackheads respond more willingly when they're approached with patience. A pore that feels calm and softened will release a blackhead far more easily than a pore that's been scrubbed, squeezed, or stressed. These techniques also bring a meditative quality into your routine. You're present, you're paying attention, you're noticing the texture of your skin, the temperature, the spots that need extra time, the areas that feel congested. That awareness naturally leads to better care because you're tuning into what your skin needs rather than rushing through what you think you're supposed to do. And this presence is what connects all the earlier key points: the listening, the gentleness, the understanding. Everything starts blending together into one clear message. Your skin thrives when you stop fighting it and start guiding it. Even the way you rinse matters. Splashing aggressively shocks the skin, but cupping warm water and letting it cascade softens the experience. Using a damp, soft cloth instead of rubbing adds another layer of comfort. Finishing with a light press of your hands helps the skin feel supported rather than stripped. These small sensory details may seem insignificant, but they accumulate into a routine that's not only effective, but deeply calming. You're not just cleaning your face, you're resetting your skin and your mind at the same time. At the end of the day, ASMR-inspired cleansing isn't about trends or aesthetics. It's about creating a space where your skin feels safe to reset, release, and renew. And when you give it that space, you'll be amazed at how quickly it responds. Gentleness doesn't slow your progress, it accelerates your clarity. When it comes to extractions, this is where a lot of people get into trouble, because the moment you see a blackhead or a bump, the instinct is to press, squeeze, poke, or scrape until something comes out. And while that impulse is completely understandable, it's also the fastest way to irritate your skin, deepen a clog, or even create a scar that sticks around much longer than the blackhead ever would have. Safe extraction isn't about forcing the skin to give up what it's holding. It's about preparing the skin so thoroughly and so gently that the pore releases the buildup almost on its own. The more you help the skin soften, relax, and loosen, the less pressure you ever need to use. Before an extraction even begins, the skin needs to be in the right state. Cleansing is your first step. But the preparation doesn't stop there. You want the pores warm, the surface hydrated, and the buildup softened. That's why warm steam or a warm towel works so beautifully. A few minutes of gentle heat can achieve more than 10 minutes of squeezing. It's like giving the pore permission to let go. The oil inside starts to melt slightly, the walls of the pore feel less tight, and the skin becomes more flexible. When you rush into extractions without this step, the skin is still tense, still resistant, and that's when damage happens. Once the skin is softened, the technique matters even more. Pressure should always be low, controlled, and angled. Not a sharp squeeze straight down, but a gentle rocking motion around the pore. You're not trying to force the contents upward, you're encouraging the pore to open from beneath. And here's something most people overlook: if it doesn't come out easily, it's not ready. The pore is telling you it needs more time, more warmth, or more softening. That's not failure, that's communication. Pushing past that point almost always leads to inflammation. When you respect the pore's readiness, you avoid the redness, swelling, and trauma that make everything look worse the next day. Tools can help, but only when used properly. A comedone extractor with a loop can provide controlled pressure, but it should never dig into the skin. The loop should glide over the area, not press into it. Cotton swabs can be surprisingly effective because they give cushion and control, allowing you to apply pressure without slipping. The key is always the same: low pressure, good angle, and only working with what the skin freely releases. Anything that feels stuck should be left alone. When in doubt, step back, breathe, and let the pore calm down. The skin always does better when it's not provoked. Another big part of safe extraction is knowing your limits. Not every blackhead should be removed at home. Deep ones that sit far below the surface, especially those in sensitive areas like the nose crease or around the mouth, often require more precision than fingers can provide safely. Trying to force them leads to broken capillaries, bruising, or even infection if bacteria get pushed deeper. And with inflamed acne, extractions at home should be off the table completely. Those lesions are already irritated, and pressure only drives inflammation further into the skin. Inflamed bumps need time, soothing ingredients, and consistency, not squeezing. What most people forget is that extractions don't end after the blackhead is gone. Post-care is just as important as the extraction itself. The moment a pore opens, it becomes more vulnerable. A gentle toner or a calming product helps the skin settle. Ingredients like salicylic acid or azelaic acid can keep the pore clear and reduce the chances of the clog returning. Even something as simple as a cool compress helps the skin recover and tightens the pores slightly without shocking them. When you skip this step, pores can refill quickly, and any redness lingers longer than it needs to. Over time, safe extractions teach you a lot about your skin. You learn which areas clog the fastest, which pores release easily, and which ones need more prep. You begin to see that extractions aren't about picking, they're about partnering with your skin in the right moment, under the right conditions, with the right touch. It becomes less about trying to get everything out at once, and more about maintaining clarity over time, with patience and consistency leading the way. Gentle, prepared, and controlled extractions don't just clear your pores, they protect the future of your skin. A lot of people think the hardest part of getting clearer skin is the deep cleansing itself, but the truth is the real transformation happens in the routine you build afterward. Anyone can cleanse well for a day or two. Anyone can follow a technique after watching a video. But the skin doesn't respond to occasional effort, it responds to consistency. A routine that supports your pores daily is what keeps blackheads from reforming, what keeps acne calmer, and what keeps your skin balanced enough to maintain the results you work so hard to get. Deep cleansing sets the stage, but the routine that follows is what carries the performance. What makes a routine effective isn't how many steps it has, but how well those steps support the natural function of the skin. You don't need an army of products lining your bathroom counter. What you need is a rhythm, a set of small, dependable habits that work together to keep the skin clean, calm, and balanced. And the beautiful thing is that once you understand your skin, once you've learned how to listen to its signals and respond gently, building that rhythm feels natural. You're no longer guessing. You're no longer reacting out of frustration. You're simply reinforcing what your skin is already telling you it needs. It starts with cleansing, but not the heavy, intense, deep cleanse you might do once or twice a week. Your daily cleanse should be soft, controlled, and supportive. It's about maintaining the baseline, keeping the surface clear so the pores don't have a chance to hold on to excess oil or debris. Most people underestimate how much their skin benefits from a simple, consistent routine rather than a constantly changing one. When the products stay the same, the skin learns to settle. When the steps stay steady, the skin learns to trust the process. Hydration plays a major role here too. A lot of people dealing with blackheads or acne think moisturizing will make things worse. But it's actually the opposite. When the skin is hydrated, it sheds more efficiently, produces oil more predictably, and stays more resilient. A hydrated pore is a healthier pore. And a healthier pore gets clogged less often, so even if your skin is oily, even if you struggle with breakouts, your routine should include something that brings moisture back in. Not heavy moisture, just something that supports balance. Exfoliation becomes another piece of the puzzle, but it has to be done with care. Too much exfoliating irritates the skin and triggers more oil production. Too little, and dead skin builds up and traps everything beneath it. Finding the right rhythm, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how your skin behaves, helps prevent the cycle of congestion without overwhelming the skin barrier. And once again, if you've been listening to your skin all along, this timing becomes easier to understand. What ties everything together is the mindset of maintenance instead of rescue. You're not scrambling to fix a breakout, you're preventing the environment that leads to one. You're not waiting until your pores are clogged. You're keeping them clear day by day, and that shift changes how you treat your skin entirely. Instead of reacting only when there's a problem, you're working with your skin every day to avoid the problem altogether. It's less dramatic, but far more effective. Nighttime routine plays a huge role too. This is when the skin repairs itself, resets, and breathes after everything it encountered during the day. Giving it a clean, hydrated, supported environment overnight makes a massive difference in how it performs the next morning. Even something as simple as avoiding harsh products right before bed can reduce irritation and allow your skin to recover more efficiently. And then there's patience, real, meaningful patience. Skin doesn't clear overnight, and it shouldn't. Slow, steady change is healthier, safer, and much more long-lasting. When you commit to a routine and stick with it, even when you don't see dramatic results immediately, you build a foundation that keeps your pores calmer for months, even years. You allow your skin to stabilize. You allow the benefits of deep cleansing to continue beyond the moment. A routine isn't just a series of steps. It's a promise you make to your skin. And when you keep it consistently, your skin keeps its promise back.